everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. Today, we have very interesting three articles that we will discuss in our newspaper analysis. So, the first article is titled as A Language Ladder for an Education Roadblock. This is a very interesting article which talks about the importance of regional and vernacular or the local languages and how professional education, the professional courses, should be given these languages in order to instill life and confidence amongst the people who speak these languages. And to be noted, this article has been written by Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu, who is currently the Vice President of India. The second article is again from the Hindu newspaper, which is titled as No Fundamental Right to Strike. So, this actually talks about the strike in the factories or workplaces where there are essential commodities being produced. And that is why it says that right to strike is not a fundamental right. And let's see that what is the further debate that has taken forward in this direction. And the final article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as Why a Made in India Aircraft Carrier Matters. So, this basically talks about the INS Vikrant. So, what do we have good news about it, and why is it really, really important for India? And when we talk about the self explanatory or the self reliant India, is made in India aircraft. So, why is it important? We will discuss in this article. This newspaper analysis is presented by me. My name is Sheva Khan. I'm a law graduate and had completed my law degree from Uttaranchal University in the year 2019 with a gold medal in my batch. I have also been a national debater and a public speaker. And here at LawSeco, I'm working as the manager for current affairs vertical. If you wish to connect with me or find me, you can have a look at my Twitter and LinkedIn handles. The links to both are available in the description box below. Let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Which of the following committees is not related to poverty estimation in India? Your options are Tendulkar Committee, Lakdawala Committee, Naidu Committee, or Rangarajan Committee. Let's see what is the descriptive question for the day. Teaching in the mother tongue or the regional language will help in building an equitable education system. Comment. So let's quickly start the discussion for the first article of the day, which talks about the professional courses in one's mother tongue. So, 8 engineering colleges across 8 states in India have decided to offer courses in regional languages in select branches. So, this is something that is a step in the right direction, wherein 8 engineering colleges in the 8 states of India have actually decided that now the courses, the professional courses like engineering as well, would be provided in the regional languages in some selected branches of those colleges. So, let's understand that what are the professional courses in the native languages. So, according to the All India Council for Technical Education, it permitted the BTech programs in 11 native languages in lines with the National Education Policy. Now, as we know that the National Education Policy 2020 also talks about getting the education system being more comprehensive and just not sticking to a single language or a two language system. Rather, it also proposed the three language theory as well, wherein apart from Hindi and English, the regional, local, or vernacular language of that particular area would also be taught in the schools. So, in the similar lines with the NEP, that is the National Education Policy, the All India Council for Technical Education also permitted the degree program for BTech also in 11 native languages. So, these are Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Gujarati, Malayalam, Bengali, Assamese, Punjabi, and Odia. So these are the languages, the 11 languages in which the BTech program was actually allowed by the All India Council for Technical Education. So the 44% students, they voted in favor of studying engineering in their mother tongue, as it was according to the survey done by the AICTE. So we have to say that it means that at least, let's say, not even just half, but yes, a significant share of the students have actually voted in favor of being taught or being or taking a degree in their own mother tongue. Now, here we need to understand that why do we need to learn the mother tongue? Why are we really laying this emphasis that the degree programs or the technical education? Now, when I talk about the technical education, these are degrees such as, we have the MBBS, we have law, we have BTech, etc. So when we talk about the education or imparting education in the mother tongue, why is it so important? Firstly, learning in the mother language will instill confidence in the students from poor, rural, as well as the tribal backgrounds, according to Prime Minister Modi, because yes, that definitely is the case. See, I will give you a general example on this. There is a person who belongs to, let's say, a village and is not very well versed with, let's say, English language. Now this person moves to the city and gets in conversation with people who are very fluent with English, or anyway know English better than him. What happens is that many a times there is this complex of language that comes in the people. Now this should not come, but unfortunately this has become a part of the society, that if at all we see anyone speaking in the wrong language, or we find out any kind of grammatical error or anything of that sort, so we make fun of the other person, which is really really very very bad. But yes, unfortunately this is what is going on in the society. Now in such a situation, what happens is that this person who was not able to speak that language properly develops a complex within himself, that he is maybe inferior or not better than as the others are, and that is why they lack confidence. Now, here, if we take the case for the people who do not know their mother tongue, or who think that their mother tongue is not good enough or strong enough to be spoken in front of the people, so in these situations, they would not feel confident in speaking in this language. I'm sure that you must have noticed some of the other time that a person belongs to a particular area. Let's say that a person belongs to states like Bihar, Haryana, or even Maharashtra, wherein the language that they have is very much evident in the way they speak, right? Like for example, a Bihari person has his own kind of accent, but because he believes in his head, and of course due to the state data also available, that if he speaks this language, it will not reap anything beneficial to him, and rather he might be made fun of, there would be a good chance that he would not speak in his own language. And that is why it is important to tell the people who speak their mother tongue that these languages are beautiful in their own kind. And of course, good courses also available in these languages would actually elevate the level or elevate the value of these languages in the society. Next, the children who learn in their mother tongue in their early stages perform better than those taught in alien language. Now, the most, the biggest example of this is the English language. No matter how much we speak this language, no matter for how long we have been speaking this language, it will remain an alien language for us. It can never, ever, ever compete with the comfort that we have with the Hindi language. Trust me, even I have been using English as a medium, like mostly English as my medium to communicate when it comes to professional grounds or professional conversations. But I believe that there is nothing like the language Hindi that we speak generally. There are so many expressions that can never be so beautified in English language, that can be spoken so nicely and smoothly in the Hindi language. So that is why there is definitely a sense of confidence and a sense of comfort that the people have, and they feel also that they perform better, they have better vocabulary in it, and they have better confidence of thoughts as well when we put have to produce in a particular home language. And thirdly, learning in mother tongue builds self-esteem and self-identity and overall development of child as per UNESCO. Of course, this point can never ever be brought down, that if at all we are proud of what we are, or we are proud of the language that we speak, this will give us the idea of self-esteem, and definitely will give us an identity which is different from others. A very good example of this is the country Japan. You must have seen that they do not even make movies in English. They do not even, hardly if they use any, one or two dialogues in their movies or web series in English, their accent is also very different. But does it bring down their confidence anyway? No, not at all. They are very much proud of their own language, and instead they prefer to carry on or take along translators with them instead of learning a foreign language. So, still, this has not at all stopped Japan from being a superpower in the world and being such an important country and such an important technical hub as well for the entire world. So, in this situation, we should understand that language is never a barrier. And so, we should make sure that we never make it a barrier, right? So language should be something that it is just, you can communicate in it. That should be the biggest purpose, and that if that is resolved, then we should be very much proud of our mother tongue. So let's understand about the global practices. So according to the G20 countries, most of them have state of art universities that teach in which the teaching is imparted in dominant language of their own place and their people. In France, they follow French only policy in the schools. Germany has 80% of all master's programs in German. And in Asian countries, in South Korea, 70% universities teach in Korean language, and the government banned teaching of English prior to third grade in schools. And as I just mentioned about Japan as well, the majority of university programs are taught in Japanese, and same is for China, where the universities use their language, which is Mandarin. So that is why it is important that we also, being a country which has such beautiful languages, should be proud of what we have. So let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about Made in India aircraft carrier. So we will take it into very short and crisp content. So recently, the indigenous aircraft carrier, which is the IAC-1 INS Vikrant, will enter the survey with the Indian Navy within the coming year, that is 2022. So the important point that we need to understand about INS Vikrant is that it is maiden and it is indigenously made. So we have not imported it from any country, be it Russia, Israel, or USA. Rather, we have made it. It is completely home developed INS, that is the Indian naval ship, and the name has been given Vikrant. So let's understand a little more about INS Vikrant. It has been named after India's first aircraft carrier, which was commissioned in the year 1997. That was Vikrant, that played a stellar or a very important role in the 1971 war. The significance of this is that it is the first aircraft carrier designed and built in India. Over 76% of the material and equipments are indigenous, that is, they were procured within the country itself. It has been designed by Indian Navy's Directorate of Naval Design and is being built by the Cochin Shipyard Limited. Now, these points become really important when it comes to prelims point of view, or just for the intricate details that we need to remember. And currently, only 5 or 6 nations have the capability to manufacture their own aircraft carrier. And now, to be very proud of the same, India is one of these nations. And earlier, India's carriers were built either by Britain or by Russia. Let's understand that an aircraft carrier. So an aircraft carrier is one of the most potent, that is one of the best marine assets that a nation can have, that actually enhances a navy's capability to travel from far from its shores and carry out air domination operations as well. So what happens is that an aircraft carrier, as the name itself is suggesting, it is a kind of huge naval ship that has the capacity to load and carry aircrafts, fighter jets as well, and the aircrafts can not only land but also can take off from these naval ships. So these are considered to be as the blue water navy that has the capacity to protect a nation's strength across the high seas. High seas, please note that this is the external most or the farthest most area from the coast of any particular marine nation. So if we talk about the other countries, so US currently has 11 aircraft carriers. China too is building aggressively with its aircraft carrier program and currently has 2, and the third is under the making. Let's discuss the third article for the day, which talks about the fundamental right to strike. So, the recently introduced Essential Defense Services Bill 2021 empowers the government to declare the services mentioned in it as essential defense services, and thus, using that power, could prohibit any kind of strikes or lockouts in such services. If you remember, we have also taken this article in the previous sessions where it was discussed that since there are some kinds of defense procurements or ordinance, and what we meant by ordnance were the armories, artilleries, and the other kinds of equipments that are required in the defense services. So there are some kinds of defense services. Now, these could be any kinds of, let's say, guns, any kinds of grenades that could be manufactured or something like that. So there are some kinds of defense equipments that are very, very essential. And if at all, any kind of strike or lockout is maintained or it goes out in the manufacturing units of these defense services, so the nation or the security of the entire nation would come at the state. And that is why recently the Essential Defense Services Bill 2021 was actually introduced in order to give this power to the government that it could declare few things that it has mentioned in the list as essential defense services, just like we have the Essential Commodities Act, to make sure that some essential commodities never go in hoarding, or there is never shortage of these commodities, be it the food grains, be it petroleum, etc. So let's understand about the strikes by the government employees. So according to the MP and Chhattisgarh Civil Services Rules 1965, they prohibit demonstrations and strikes by the government servants and treat it as unauthorized absence. Now, here one thing that we need to understand is that government servants basically, in a way, are the representatives of the government. right? Maybe direct or indirect. Now, if at all they also go against a strike against the government, then it definitely does not send a very good message in the society. Now, you must be wondering that what if they have any kind of grievance? So, are they or not even allowed to go on a strike? See, that is not the case. When you are a government servant, it is believed that you are, in a better position to negotiate with the government, that you are in a better position to talk it out with the government. And that is why it is not expected out of you that you would also go on a strike. And that is why it is believed and it is, assumed that these workers should use the powers and the privileges that have been given to them, and thus they should not go on these strikes. And specifically, if they are working in the sectors that have the essential services, then it is important for us to note that they, under these rules, would definitely not be allowed to go on these strikes. So if we talk about the strike under the rules include total or partial cessation of work, which means that either the work has been stopped totally or in any kind of partial sense. Pen down strike, if you remember, when we were back in the law schools, we used to study the labor law, we studied the kinds of strikes also. The pen down strike was when there is absolutely no work going on in that institution, and the workers or the employees are completely on a strike. So which means that they're absolutely doing nothing at that particular time. A traffic jam wherein they sit on the roads, or any such activity resulting in the cessation or retardation or slowing down of the work. So if we talk about the jurisprudence specifically for for the defense services or the armed forces, Article 33 of the Indian Constitution, which in itself is a fundamental right, gives the power to the parliament. Now, please note this down, that this power to, whatever we are going to discuss is endowed only and only with the parliament. So the parliament can restrict or abrogate the rights of the members of forces charged with the maintenance of order. Now, this is an important point. Let's say that if at all any of your family members is in the army, I'm sure you'll be able to relate very much better. That many a times they are given orders that now from so on and so forth, they would not be allowed, let's say, to use WhatsApp or to use Facebook, right? Do you think that the government can, in general situations, prohibit a normal civilian individual to do so? Definitely not. See, of course, the fundamental rights are not absolute. There are reasonable restrictions under Article 19, Clause 2 of the Indian Constitution. But yes, if there is nothing, of that sort that is coming under the reasonable restrictions, the government would not be able to prohibit a user or a particular civilian from using any social media site, let's say, for example. But under Article 33, the parliament is empowered to do so with the armed forces. Because obviously, the kind of job that they are doing, the kind of profile that they have is very, very sensitive. And that is why, for the national security, they can be, abrogated. Their fundamental rights also can be abrogated, as we know that using these social media sites, using internet and all these things are under right to education as well, right to information and freedom of speech and expression as well. So the Supreme Court in Delhi Police versus Union of India in 1986 held that restriction to form association by members of non-gazetted police force would be there. And the Supreme Court in T.K. Rangarajan versus Government of Tamil Nadu in 2003 held that the employees have no fundamental right to resort to strike. This is a very important point which we need to note, that strike, the right to strike, is not a fundamental right. Please remember that the right to form association, the right to procession may be in a way, but when we talk about the right to strike, the right terms that we use is that the right to strike is not illegal. Here, there is a clear difference between something being legal and something being not illegal. So I hope you're understanding that, right? If you're sitting on a strike, we cannot say that you're doing something illegal. But yes, it cannot also be claimed as a matter of right. So here is a hairline difference between the two things, that the right to strike is not illegal. So let's see that what are the concluding remarks regarding this, that there is no fundamental right to strike under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, very, very important for the prelims exam. And secondly, the strikes cannot be justified on any equitable grounds and might result into chaos. And that is why right to strike is not a fundamental right. So this was all for the day. Here is a small announcement for you all, that if you would like to catch this same discussion on the podcast as well, so you can go and listen to our daily newspaper analysis podcast, which is available on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, as well as Apple Podcast. Also, if you wish to download the slides for today's discussion, or you want to avail other study materials, be it the current affairs newsletter, daily quizzes, monthly quizzes, etc., you can go and join our Telegram channel. The link to the channel is also given under the description box below. And also, you can simply scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, for other crisp and amazing content, do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for Law Seekho Judiciary, CLAT Prep, as well as UGC Net, if in case you're preparing for any of these exams. Thank you so much.